Okay, so just kind of preview what we're looking at. We're looking at bank reconciliation, and how this starts is that we get a bank statement from the bank. And you may get this in the mail, you may get it electronically. It just depends on how your account is set up, okay? I know I like to still get it in the mail, okay? So I have a physical paper copy of everything, and if I have to go back and look and actually, you know, work through the math and all of that, I've got it, okay? And then we do have some recording and journalizing that we're gonna do with this as well, okay? So this is an example. Everybody can see the screen, right? I'm showing the right screen this time. This is an example of a bank statement that might get sent to you, like I said, one way or the other, maybe even through email. I don't know. But it's going to have like a number that you start out with, the number of checks that were written, the dollar amount for all those checks that went out, the number of deposit you had, the dollar amount for all those deposits coming in. Notice right here that there's a service charge. Again, unless you carry a very large balance or you have something like a student account, you probably are going to get charged some kind of bank charge. Okay, so you need to watch that too. And pay attention to how much gets pulled out per month. Let's see. Okay. And then it'll list things individually. So here it's listing the deposit. This deposit was made on the 2nd. There was a check on the 5th, a check on the 8th, a deposit on the 10th, a deposit on the 16th. And every bank statement will look a little bit different. You just kind of have to get to know your bank's format and be familiar with it, okay? Canceled check, okay? A canceled check is not a bad check. A canceled check is a check that's gone through the process of being handed over and sent to the bank and coming through, and it's been pulled out of your account, okay? So just terminology, definition there, okay? Canceled check, not a bad check, just a check that's finished the process. Okay, so this is a reconciliation statement that we're going to be working on in class. Again, this is dependent on the bank. Here in a second, I will show you on the document camera a different format. And again, if you get a printed in the mail copy of your bank statement, somewhere in that envelope, there's probably going to be a reconciliation page or worksheet that you can use to reconcile your account. Okay, so basically what we're doing is we've got two sides to this. One is we're figuring out what we think should be in our checking account and what the bank says I have in my checking account. And at the end, if those two numbers match at the bottom, then we're good. Okay, if they don't, we've got to go find out, did I write a check down wrong? Did I forget about a service fee? Or did somebody pull money out of my account and I didn't know about it? Okay. All right, so this is kind of just the steps of what we'll go through. The check stub, this is the checkbook side. So we're going to look at our checkbook and see what it says. We'll take care of any service charges and add that to our checkbook as well. And then also figure out what that number is. And then we'll look at the bank statement. We'll see if there's any checks or deposits that have happened since they put that in the mail to me. and then we'll add or subtract those as needed and come up with a number. And like I said, hopefully those two numbers at the end match. Okay, so those are the steps we're going through. We do have to, anytime anything comes out of our bank account, we do have to record it and keep track of it. And so that's what's going to happen on our bank stub. And we wrote that as a note the other day. You know, we may have bank charges and this is where it would go. And that's what they're showing us right here. Okay, then we're going to go through journalizing it, just like it were any other kind of transaction. Okay, in this case, we're using miscellaneous expense for the bank charge. If you have a lot of bank charges, then you might have its own, it may have its own account. And then we record it, miscellaneous expense is a debit, cash is coming out of our account as a credit, and we're just going to have a memo as our documentation. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through that. Okay, so here is another, this is an account that we have at Wells Fargo. And like I said, in the envelope that statement came in, this was the worksheet that they brought, or they sent, that I could have used to reconcile that account. Okay. All right, give me just a second. Okay. All right. And let's see, again, if you were using a personal account and using one of these little books, okay, this is what you would go through to make sure that all your checks and stuff are matching up. Okay. All right. So 5-2. And again, we're going through the working together. And it tells us that forms are given to us. So we've got our bank reconciliation here. And it's giving us the information that would have been on the bank statement. Okay, so they're not giving us a whole bank statement. They're just giving us the pieces and parts that we need to know. Okay, so on August 29th of the current year, Bright and White Laundry received a bank statement dated August 28th. The following information is obtained from the bank and from the records of the business. All right, we're going to prepare the reconciliation. We're going to use August 29th as the date, okay, because that's when we received it, and that's when we're doing this reconciliation, okay. And then we're going to take care of the service charge. All right, so these are the numbers that we are going to be using. I think I need my glasses today. All right, so again, just some terminology. Reconcile means we're going to bring to agreement. We're going to agree that what the bank says we have is what we actually have. Okay. And we're going to bring to agreement the checkbook and the bank account. right, and it's August. And again, this is the date that we reconcile, the date that we're actually doing this. All right, so again, let's see, bank balance on check stub number. And our instructions tell us that our checkbook balance on the check stub number 309 is 2822. Okay, so that's the number I'm looking for first. All right, check stub number 309. And that number is 2822. Okay, and again, this is what that number would have been right here. Okay, and we would have pulled it off of there. And then we do have a bank charge. It tells us here we have a bank service charge of $20. Okay, so this amount's going here. Sorry, I need to keep that straighter for you guys, or turn my camera, one of the two. Okay. And then it says total bank charges. So you just kind of have to, it's kind of like an IRS form. I don't know if you've done your taxes, but it kind of tells you exactly what's put where, right? So total bank charges. Well, that means you could have more than just one set of charges. Sometimes you may have withdrawal charges or credit card fees or something like that, okay? So in this case, it's just gonna be the 20, right? And it's telling us what to do. Deduct the bank charges, right? So 2822 minus 20, and our new balance is 2802, 0 cents. Can y'all see that? 2802. Yeah.
What's the word about charge? Service.
Oh yeah, service charge. That's awful. I'm so sorry. Apologize for my handwriting. That's just making it worse. Okay. All right, so that takes care of one side. The next side, balance on the bank statement. Okay, so again, if we had the bank statement, we would go look to see what that balance is. But here it's telling us the 2712 is our balance. Now, why wouldn't these two always match anyway? This is what the bank says we have, and this is what my checkbook says we have. Why wouldn't they match? Anybody have a thought? Well, so right here, the bank says I have this. My checkbook says I have this. Why are they different? Okay, because there were deposits or something, right? So here's the key, it's time. By the time they print the statement, they put it in the mail and they get it to your house and you go to the mailbox and you get it, right? There's time. And in that time, you may have written checks, you may have deposited money, things like that, okay? And so that's why those numbers are going to be different. It's just a couple of days of time, right? Okay, unless you get it electronically, they do it within a couple of seconds, they send it to you and you sit down and you do your reconciliation, it might be the same. But we don't usually do that quickly, right? Of getting those kind of documents, all right? So it's just time. So 2712 is our bank statement balance. And then, like I said, in that time frame, we may have made some deposits and we may have written some checks. And so that's what we have to take care of here. So it tells us that on the 28th, so this was printed on the 28th, but also on the 28th, after it was printed, we went and made a deposit of $300. And then sometime probably on the 28th or the morning of the 29th, we wrote 2 checks for 140 and 70. So those are the 3 things that we have to write on the reconciliation. Okay, so we had a deposit on 8/28 for 300, and you could have had multiple deposits, so it gives you space to add those up. And it tells us that we're just going to put the total deposits here. So there's 300 there. It tells us that we're going to add the deposits. So 2712 plus 300 is 3012. Okay, and that gives us the subtotal. And now we're going to deduct the outstanding checks. And there were 2. Check number 306 for $140. And check number 308 for $70. Okay, now, does anybody have a question on those checks or those check numbers? I kind of explained it as we wrote those checks sometime between then and now, right? And maybe we didn't actually write those checks, but they haven't come through the bank yet, right? Because notice that there's 307, 306, 308. Where's 307? Well, 307 came through, right? So we may have written these checks on the 26th, but whoever we wrote them to didn't get them to the bank very quick, right? And so again, there's that time factor, but 307 got through. So 307 is going to be on our bank statement, okay? So we actually have to look at all the checks that have come through and all the checks that we've written, or all the deposit or all the withdrawals that we've made, payments that we've made online, whatever the case may be, and make sure that they're matching up. All right, so we're going to add this up. Total outstanding checks for 210. Okay, and then again, checks are coming out of our account. So we're going to take our subtotal. We're going to deduct the total outstanding checks, and it should be 2802. Do our numbers match? Yes, we're good. Must equal. Say that again.
What if the check, say like 307 was not there, where it does not, it's lower than 2802.
Yeah. I mean, if these 2 numbers don't equal, that means something's wrong. Either I wrote down, like in my checkbook, a number wrong, or I forgot to write down a check in my checkbook. And so then you just have to go back and you have to research. You have to look and see, what the bank has and what your checkbook has, and figure out where the difference is. So you have to go hunt and research, okay? And I know my mom worked for a company one time and they were like a penny off. And she had to go back and find the penny, right? And yeah, she would find it. I mean, it's just, some people don't care about a penny, but some people do, right? So you just depends on how much you're willing to be off, right? Okay, any questions on that part? Y'all get online? Okay. Let me see something real quick. This. No. All right. Did I?
I had lanyards for the press.
Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, right there. See, it could have been something like that, right? And I added 14 instead of 140. Good catch. Okay, so we did that. It says record the service charge on check number 309. Okay, so here's check number 309. If this check has not, well, if we're recording it on this check stub, that means this check still hasn't been written. So really, there's still a check out here attached. Okay. We should have brought the balance forward, and that's the 2822. The deposits were made before this. So 2822 is our subtotal here. Okay, and we don't ever know about the service charge until, or we don't want to record it until we get the bank statement and we know that they pulled it out of our account. And sometimes it could be different amounts if it's a percentage of something. Okay, and so that service charge is $20. And then we'll subtract, right? We're going to subtract anything that's a charge, and that gets us to 2802. Okay, so now at this point, once we've done that service charge, again, our bank account, our checkbook, and the actual bank have all had the same number. Okay, we don't write anything right here until we actually write this check. So this stays blank until that check is written. Okay, so just to add some notes. Here, the bank pulled out $20 for a service charge. We must update the checkbook. And that's what we're doing right here. And that's money coming out of our account. So we actually have to also update the journal. And that's what we're doing next. Okay, because this all has to match, but it also has to match our journal. Okay, so it tells us that we're recording it on page 16. Okay, so start looking at those page numbers a little bit closer, make sure you're getting the right page number in there. And well, I don't think it doesn't tell you miscellaneous expense, so you'll just kind of have to know that. Right, you can ask and I'll tell you. All right, so this was done on the 29th. This is when we're recording it, the 29th of August. When you see a journal that looks like this and it's got that little gap in there, y'all all see that on your paper? That just means that there's other things between the heading and line 14, like there's rows 1 through 13. We're just ignoring those for right now, right? So that's why we don't have to write the word August here, is because it's written up above somewhere. All right, and I know that because it's got that little white gap. All right, and this is a miscellaneous, and I will let you abbreviate because that's a hard word to spell and say, and we really don't have enough room on these lines for it. Okay, so miscellaneous expense. It tells us in the book we're on memo 77. And where's it going to go? Where are the numbers going to go? Expenses are always what? Debit.
Debit.
Good. Okay. And then what's the other, where's the credit? Cash credit, right? Because it's coming out of our account. Even though we didn't write a check, okay, it's still coming out of our account because the bank pulled it. Okay. All right. Pretty straightforward there. Any questions on that?
So service charges are just miscellaneous expenses?
Yes, right now.
Okay.
Like I said, sometimes you just have to look at the chart of accounts and see if there is a specific account specifically for bank charges or service fees or something like that. But I think for most of the time, it's going to be miscellaneous expense. All right, now in the end of yesterday's lesson, we talked about the voided checks, right? And how we can't just tear up a voided check. We have to record it because it skips a check number, and that throws up those red flags for people looking at our accounts. So we have to record it. So because we've got an extra line here in this journal, I want to go ahead and just kind of show you what that would look like. So let's say on the 30th, we have a check that we're voiding. We don't really care who it was to or what it was for or anything. It doesn't matter. That's not why we're recording it. We're recording it because we need that check number to be in our journal somewhere, so it's not missing. Okay. We don't have to journalize it. Excuse me, we don't have to post it. Put it in the ledgers. Okay. So we put a check mark there, and we don't even have to put any numbers, right? You can draw lines in case people are kind of curious as to what that was about, but as soon as they see void, they'll know. So again, the only reason is because we want to put that check number in there. Okay, you don't have to worry about numbers. We don't have to worry about who or anything like that. Okay, so just make yourself a note here. This is how we record a voided check. Okay, let me just see if there's any other notes. Again, get used to the word next unused check stub, right? So 309 is the next unused because this hasn't been written out, the check hasn't been written out. We're just using this section to record some deposits or service fees. Okay. All right, who sends us our bank statement? The bank. Okay, so the bank statement comes from the bank. How often? What do you think? Not quarterly. What's probably another option? Monthly, right? Okay, so usually you'll get one per month. Okay, so we journalize here. Whoops. Did y'all see all that down there online? Y'all journalized here some different things coming out of our account. So what we're going to look at now are a couple other things that might come out, or a couple other ways cash may come out of your account. Okay. One is a bad check. Okay, so if somebody writes you a check, you take it to the bank, you put it in your bank, and your bank gives you the money for it, and then their bank says, sorry, that person didn't have any money, right? So you got to back up and take that money back out of your account, right? That's a dishonored check or a bad check or a non-sufficient funds check, an NSF check, okay? So if that were to happen, we have to go back. We had made the deposit, right? We put here in this case $225 in our checking account. Now the bank comes back and says, nope, sorry, you got to take that out, right? So you got to take that $225 out. Yeah, you have to report it, right? The bank's going to take it out, but you've got to keep track of it so that your account's not right, or your account is right. Okay, and that could be why it would be off too at the end, is because somebody's check bounced. Okay, So that's something else that we can put under the other section right there. Okay, so when we're journalizing it, not only do we have to reverse our cash, but now they still owe us money, right? So in the business here, Valley Landscaping paid us $185, but their check bounced, okay? But there was also a fee. Our bank charged us the fee for their mistake, okay? Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to our customer and we're gonna say, you owe us the $185 and you owe us the $40 fee, okay? So we're gonna add that back to their accounts receivable and what they owe us, all right? And that's where this journalizing is coming in, okay? So originally they only owed us $185, now they owe us $225 because of that fee, okay? And then we would record it like this, okay? And we're reducing, we're increasing again what they owe us, right? And then reducing our cash with a cash credit. All right, a couple other ways money might come out of our account with our control is an electronic funds transfer. And that could be, things you've already got set up, right? If you've got your gym payment set up to come out of your account, you can set all kinds of things to come out of your account, right? Rent, anything that's kind of a sequential payment every month or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can automatically have coming out of your account. Okay. So if you have that set up, you can't forget that every month you've got to go record that. Okay. And pay attention to it. Again, and being a business is different than being personal, right? You know that money's coming out, you know it's going to decrease, but in a business, we have to have it on paper. We have to journalize it. Okay. All right, so this is just showing that we use an electronic funds transfer to pay somebody that we owed money to. Okay, and then we can also use, if we have a debit card, same thing. If we have a debit card, we go use it. It's coming straight out of our account, so we've got to record it. And we need to know what it was for, right? Because we have to journalize it into those different accounts. So it has to match up with an account. Even though our bank statement may say, Home Depot, right? In our journal, we have to know that it's supplies. And so then we're going to have a memo with that documentation. So that it shows, it doesn't just show Home Depot on our account, it shows that it was supplies, right? Okay. So now that comes back to 5.3. And in 5.3, we're going to go through all three of those. We're going to receive notice from the bank of a dishonored check. So Christine Iverson had paid us $126, but her check was bad. So now our bank is pulling the $126 out plus the $25 fee. So now we're going to tell Christine she owes us for all of that at $151. Okay. So we're going to make her accounts receivable increase. And this happened on August 18th. So now we're increasing what she owes us. It's memo 312 for $151, and our bank took $151 out of our account. It does tell us we're on page 15. Okay, so this dollar amount right here is the original 126 plus the $25. Okay, so this was the original check, and this was the overage fee. Any questions on that? And then it tells us on the 20th that we're paying cash on accounts with the EFT to Swartz Enterprises for $270, memo 313. Okay, so this is really the same exact process as a check. It's just that we use a memo instead of a check number. Okay, it's not any different in the journalizing part. Okay, so we're paying on account. So we don't owe them as much. So our accounts payable is going to be decreasing, and that is with a debit. Okay, accounts payable increases with the credit, decreases with the debit, and it's coming out of our account, but not with a check, with a memo because it was an EFT. Okay, and then on the 21st, we bought supplies. Okay, it wasn't accounts payable. We just walked into a store and bought them with a debit card. So here's our documentation with memo 314 for $62. $62 is coming out of our account. All right, so we're just going to take some notes on each of these. This was a dishonored check. And really, why? So I said it's a bad check. It could be other reasons too. Okay, now the bank may not charge you fees, but it could have been like the check I wrote to PTA and it was just wrong, right? So PTA had recorded a deposit of my $5.25, and then went to the bank and the bank said, nope, we're not taking it. So they had to reverse their books, right? And I still owed them $5.25. So it wasn't because my check account was bad. It was that my process was bad, right? My writing was bad. I screwed it up. Okay, so kind of a why might you have a dishonored check? It could be a lot of reasons. Maybe the bank think it's altered. Okay, it could have a wrong signature. It could be that the amounts don't match, like my example. Can y'all see all that? Okay, it's still on the screen. It could be that it's post dated. So if you post date a check, if you write a check today, but you don't want anybody taking it to the bank until Monday, what is that, 1922? And you write 11/22 on the check, and you give it to somebody and they try to take it to the bank today or tomorrow, the bank won't take it. Okay, because it's a post-dated check. It could be because there was a non-sufficient funds. And it could be that the owner of the check put a stop to it. You can stop a check. So if you write a check to somebody and you stick it in the mail, and then you realize later that you don't want it to go to them, I don't know, it could be all kinds of reasons, right? You decide to pay with a credit card instead or whatever. If you don't trust that that person's not going to cash it, you can call the bank and you can stop a check. Okay.
I was gonna ask if the check ever expired.
If it gets really old, the bank may question it, depending on how old it is. There may be a time frame. The banks probably have some kind of time frame, but if you get a printed check, sometimes it'll say, like from a company, it'll say void after 180 days or something like that. So yeah, that could be another reason. It's just, it's an old check, right? We'll add that. It's an old check. Okay, so there could be a lot of different reasons that a bank dishonors a check. Okay, but if it is for NSF or some other reason that your bank charges you, you will need to make sure you pay attention to the check amount plus a fee if there is one. Okay, in our example, we are using a NSF check, right? And for us, we have to reverse that AR and increase it and decrease the cash. Okay, because now Christine still owes us we need to add the fee and remember that the bank already pulled this out of our account. Okay, so just some extra explanation there as to what happened or what could have happened. Okay. We get all that written down? And then for this one, this was an EFT payment. And pretty much this is the same as cash, if we were paying as cash or check. It's just a different source document. Okay, and then the third one was a debit card payment. And again, same as cash or check. Just a different source document. Okay, and then it doesn't really have us do this, but just so we know, if it talked about you saw on the slide that if you have a dishonored check, you need to record it in your checkbook, right? Okay, and if you have any of these, you also need to record them in your checkbook. All right, so if we were to actually not, to keep your checkbook balance. Use the other section of the check stub. Okay, and so we'll just kind of draw it. So this would be, the top part, right, where we actually use for the check. And then we have that other section, and we could write dishonored check. we might write EFT or debit card. Okay, so we had written service charge on the previous one, right? But this is just some other things. This is how we would record any of these transactions in our checkbook. Okay. All right, so does everybody have all those notes? Oh, you don't have your book? Okay. All right. And are y'all good? Oh, yes, got them all? Okay. All right, so you've got the on your owns on the back of those. Okay, and actually, I think we will go ahead and turn in the on your owns for 1, 2, and 3, because I don't want to. I don't think I want to go into 4 until after we come back. It's petty cash, and it's a little bit more confusing. And so if I try to teach it on Friday, I know I'd be teaching it again on Monday. So there will be, like I said, a turn-in spot. And actually, let me double check. Let me check something.